Did you know that 1 in every 9 people lack access to safe water? This means that twice the population of the United States are affected. That's 633 million people. Water scarcity is an abstract concept to many, and a stark reality for others. While people usually link growing water scarcity to environmental issues, the link between water shortages and economic growth is less established. Aggressively exploiting our water resources contributes to its scarcity and might as well compromise our future economic growth and our ability to improve human well-being. Let's see how the water crisis globally affects economic growth.
Highly related to climate, water refers to a geographical cause of prosperity. The water crisis directly impacts the economy and economic growth of developing countries. GDP per capita and access to safe water are highly correlated. The higher the percentage of water in a country, the higher is its GDP per capita. According to Trading Economics, Somalia, located in an area with low precipitation and droughts, has the lowest GDP per capita (PPP) with $547. Consequently, 70% of the population lacks improved and clean drinking water sources. As we all know, the economic growth of a country relies on its factors of production. In developing countries, water scarcity mostly affects human capital. Human capital is defined by the number of workers in a country times the efficiency per worker. Without access to water, crops cannot be harvested, and food security is non-existent. Thus, water shortages cause food supply to decrease, human capital to be malnourished, thus less efficient. Without access to clean water sources, people have no choice but to drink dirty water. Dirty water carries a host of fatal bacteria. 88% of diarrhea-related deaths are caused by unsafe water, and each year, 1.8 million children die from this disease. According to the World Bank, the less amount of access to improved water, the more deaths by communicable disease there are, with a correlation of 83%. Not only does water scarcity have a direct negative effect on the overall labor force, but also on the skills, knowledge, and experience of each worker. 443 million school days are lost each year from water-related illnesses, severely cutting back the knowledge that could have been transmitted to students. While teenage girls should be increasing their opportunities in school, most are charged with the dire daily task of water collection. In sub-Saharan Africa, women spend 40 billion hours per year walking for water, which is a whole year's worth of labor by France's entire workforce. When their lives are consumed by water collection, they cannot build businesses, their homes, or their future, making it impossible to make an income and increase productivity. Going back to the factors of production, the water crisis also has an impact on physical capital. Basic infrastructure is sometimes not equipped with the necessary water facilities. In developing countries, 1/3 of schools and 1/3 of all hospitals lack running water. The costs associated with health spending, productivity losses, and labor divergence are greatest in some poor countries. Sub-Saharan Africa loses about 5% of its GDP, a figure that exceeded the region's total aid flow and debt relief.
Developing countries are not the only ones affected by the water crisis. Developed economies face growing issues related to the resources scarcity. They use 45% of their water for agriculture, 45% for industry, and 10% for urban areas. It is a key resource for all sectors of the economy. The first problem found is the overuse of water. The US water consumption is the highest in the world. The average family of 4 uses 1,500 liters of water per day, which is far above the quantity available. Moreover, water-intensive tourism and recurring drought present a lot of challenges. It greatly impacts European countries on the Atlantic and the Mediterranean and slows down their economy. In addition to the exhaustion of water resources, increasing water contamination is a growing concern in many countries. The use of pesticides to boost agricultural outputs and industrial pollution, as well as other dramatic events such as Fukushima in Japan, partly explain such issues. In the US, water contamination is a growing concern and danger, such as in Flint, Michigan. Such contamination can lead to high cholesterol, obesity, hormone suppression, and even cancer. This increased health spending affects economic growth by not being effective in the long run. Instead of filtering water and tackling the main issue at hand, governments must deal with the cost of treating illnesses caused by contaminated water. Those labeled as rich economies are also threatened by the many problems of their water infrastructures and facilities. The aging of water mains, pipes, and dams cause water to be lost from the distribution system and therefore lead to a huge waste. In the US, each year, almost 8 trillion liters of water are lost due to old infrastructures crumbling. This amounts to 40 trillion baht, or 1.5 trillion Olympic-sized swimming pools. To replace or repair the deteriorated facilities would cost at least $1 trillion over the next 25 years, but so far, this investment has been delayed by the government.
To solve such issues, the commoditization of water is gaining momentum. Instead of treating water as a public service, it starts being acquired by the private sector as a commodity investment. The purchase and sale of water on international markets enables a more efficient allocation of the scarce resource. But this solution might not be sufficient to balance the constantly increasing demand and restricted water supply. In turn, it might worsen the situation of the most needy ones. In Papua New Guinea, 50 liters of water is worth 51% of the daily salary for a working class person, it being necessary to buy water since it is not publicly provided. When compared to the UK, the same amount of water was only 0.15% of the daily low wage.
75% of our planet is composed of water, yet less than 1% is available for consumption by our world population, the rest being concentrated in glaciers and oceans. Solutions exist to optimize our use of water. The Icelandic government has been implementing measures to lower the economy's use of fossil energy, which require important quantities of water to extract and use. By investing in hydroelectric plants, geothermal energy, onshore and offshore wind power, Iceland made water a source of environmentally friendly economic growth. But all economies are not as wealthy and often don't have the same ease of access to water. In addition of often being located in poor regions, water scarcity can also create armed conflicts, trapping civilians and local economies in long wars. To prevent this kind of outcomes, solutions like desalination exist. The process of making seawater drinkable through a chemical process has grown to alimент a quarter of the American tap water system. Other big users of this new technology are Saudi Arabia, China, and Spain. But this kind of industries are very costly and require big economic interventions from the states, which are often not prioritized by politicians, especially during economic downturns. But hope is not lost. In the last century, more than 450 international agreements were signed. An increasing number of actors are getting together to counter the negative effects of global warming and ensure a better distribution of what might just be our most precious commodity.